Hey everyone, Harry here with a quick recap of the historic testimony of Donald Trump in the New York fraud trial yesterday and a preview of what's ahead all the way to the end and when we can expect, and we do expect, a decision from Justice Arthur Engoron absolutely lambasting Trump, the boys, the organization, and really potentially decimating the Trump brand, at least in New York. All right. The takeaway from yesterday. So look, it's true, as I and other commentators itemized in our commentary, that there were 6 to 8 to 10 moments where Trump really provided fodder for the AG, basically copped to things that are going to come back to bite him badly, in the opinion that we can expect Engoron to issue. Times in which he acknowledged, oh, I did look at this one, or, oh, I did think that was overvalued, so I dropped it. Oh, I did understand that banks were going to use these things that I signed to decide whether to give loans. Yes, I did want to inflate my net worth. So, things like that. If this were a normal trial, you would evaluate testimony that way. There's, in any financial trial in particular, there's just a lot of kind of chaff and then some real wheat. And here, legally, it was a good to splendid day, splendid even for the New York AG. And all that's true, and for the reasons that I set out and everyone on cable did yesterday as well. But this was, to me, the apotheosis. How's that for an SAT word? The, really high water mark of what's been going on the entire year, and is apparently going to be going on for the next year, which is Trump, I think, bizarrely, hazardously, recklessly, ignorantly, but in any event, stridently and continuously employing a political strategy in the legal arena. So yes, he got beat up. As a legal commentator, I can report to you the 5 or 6 ways which it really mattered. But as a political commentator, you can observe as well as I, Trump talked trash like no defendant I've ever seen in court and got away with it. He savaged the judge that he's in front of and is going to decide his fate. He called the attorney general, was in the front row and has brought these charges, a fraud. You can stack up the 6 or 10, important legal admissions he made with the 6 or 10 kind of diatribes he was allowed to issue. And that, I think, I'm not somebody who thinks highly of his strategic skills. Nevertheless, for whatever reason you want to say it's motivated, he absolutely was able to give his base the role of Trump as martyr, of Trump as, unfairly targeted by the deep state, and Trump as defiant, the kinds of things that really do thrill them. And the dynamic was such, it was very interesting. The first half of the testimony in particular had a lot of these fireworks, and Engoron, the second half less. I think both Trump realized he might better play it a little bit lighter. And the judge is obviously aware that it's Trump's fondest legal hope, because he has no real legal leg to stand on, that he can get a rise out of Engoron, make him scream and look angry and biased, and make that the big issue on appeal. And from the AG's point of view, I had thought about this in advance and tweeted it. He had this interesting the lawyer did, tactical issue going in. Do you, the testimony like this is the best vehicle known to person kind to really get at the truth. That's not what I said, Mr. Trump. Could you please read it back? Just Judge Engoron, could you please instruct the witness to answer, really rein him in and discipline? He decided not to, and instead to let him ramble on, go through these diatribes, which were blatantly non-responsive, to get at, calculating that Trump's ego and lack of discipline would produce these moments that would be good for the AG's case, and indeed it did. So, for reasons that go to the singular nature of this trial and this where we are as a country, where these series of trials have huge potential political implications. The AG, the judge, and the AG lawyer and others, and Trump himself had reason to just, go off with diatribes that no defendant would be able to get away with without being literally put in immediately in a holding tank behind the court. So that's the sort of big thing to me to really round out the commentary, is that, some really good stuff legally, but we can talk about, and we will be talking about more, the wisdom or not of the political strategy that is Trump's legal strategy. But this was really in dramatic fashion as a witness on the stand. He was permitted to, play the cards that he wants to play politically, and have that impact in addition to the terrible legal impact. All right, I wanted to sum up that point for Trump. Now let's go forward. Tomorrow, Ivanka Trump. And she's a very interesting case. Remember, she was a defendant here, and she was dismissed from the case, not for anything that she did or hadn't done, but for statute of limitation grounds. Her participation in the frauds or alleged fraud really predate Trump's going to the White House. She has look at paragraphs 33 and 34 of the complaint. She's got a lot of responsibility, and it's relevant responsibility, but it's before it's too long before the complaint was filed, and she gets off on that basis. So she tomorrow is just a witness. Among other things, it means they're going to have to ask the court permission, and I think they will, and I think they'll get it, to treat her as a hostile witness, meaning they can cross-examine her and answer and pose sort of leading questions to her. But you look at the complaint, she, negotiates and secures financing for a lot of properties. She directed all the company's real estate and hotel management platforms. She negotiated the lease related to the old post office, that is the Trump Hotel property. And she appears to have been the beneficiary of a lease that's for a place for her to live in that was grossly undervalued. So she's got some real involvement here. And the question will be, she doesn't face criminal liability, but what will she say? What will she cop to? When Trump took the presidency, she went into government with him, and then she's pointedly distanced herself and Jared since he's left the presidency. So, she'll be asked questions about how things worked in 2017, about the things she worked on that will give her, if she answers honestly, will be bad for Trump and Eric and Junior. But will she develop a case of, I don't recall itis based on 2017, or go super vague? We'll see. That'll be, a really interesting exchange. She, for example, when she testified before the Congressional Committee, she said, I believe that Daddy didn't win the election. I believe Bill Barr when he said that. So there are other things that she could say like this that could be very damaging, and that might, be required if she's going to testify fully and truthfully. But will she indeed? That's what to look for tomorrow. Okay, and I just want to give the quick outline thereafter. Ivanka's the state's last witness. So after that, they're going to rest their case. And now it comes to the defense case. The defense has said, it will go till no more than December 3rd or 4th, which is already a lesser estimate than what they'd said originally. I don't think they're going to do that much. So my best guess is, more like Thanksgiving. We'll see. But it depends on how much they want to. They can now call Donald Trump Jr., Eric, etc., Ivanka, for their own case and elicit testimony or points that weren't elicited by the AG. And, already they're have had to testify, have had to forego taking the Fifth Amendment. So they may try this, but the cross examinations could be sort of brutal. They also are probably going to have expert testimony about, what the sort of result or how the New York real estate market works, for example. So there's some reason to think that in New York, valuations for tax purposes are way less than the market would command. That's just the way it works in some states, including New York. Maybe they'll have testimony about that. And his lawyer at least said yesterday they're going to have people from banks come forward and say, we didn't care about the loans. We didn't care about what was on those financial disclosure sheets. We knew he's a good guy, long relationship, good old Donald Trump, and he was going to pay it back. They've said they're going to have witnesses like that. You stop and think about that, though, and it's kind of staggering. What bank officer is going to come forward and testify, we don't care about whether people give us accurate information on the disclosure forms that we rely on to decide what the loans are? It seems like, no current officer could afford to do that and keep their job. And we'll see if they can dredge up somebody. But that's the basic contours of the testimony, including what, if anything, will they use Donald Trump and Eric and Don Jr. to try to say. And remember, and this goes back to the very first point I made, they're going to lose this case. They know they're going to lose this case. They're going to get walloped in this case. When will that happen? Well, let's say the testimony ends around the end of November. At that point, Engoron will probably say to each party, draft up to me based on the testimony, so-called findings of fact and conclusions of law, which is the sort of form that these cases often take. And it's not unusual. In fact, it's common to get each party's version of it. He'll take that into account. He'll write, I think it'll be a couple weeks maybe until he issues his opinion. And it's going to, at that point, it's going to be an opinion. Remember, he's already held fraud. So the big question will be, will he find against the Trumps on these other 6 counts involving knowing false statements and insurance and tax fraud? I think the answer is pretty clearly yes. What will the penalty be? I think it'll be 9 figures, starting with a 1 or a 2. And that's already a huge body blow. But the bigger ones will come on appeal if the appellate division in New York sustains Engoron's finding of fraud, which remember he did on summary judgment, didn't even have to have a trial about it, and what will happen to the certificates that he had first held. He was going to yank from all these Trump businesses, meaning they won't be able to do business in New York. That was suspended and it's going to go up on appeal as well. So all the real lambasting he'll give the Trump and the individual defendants, including, and this will be important, basically he's shown he's unafraid to say these guys are liars. He already found it briefly as to Donald Trump himself. And that matters a lot here because a finding by the fact finder who sees the testimony that someone's not credible is a very hard thing for an appeals court to set aside. And I don't think they will. So we'll have the findings, based on what their testimony, and then also these legal issues involving fraud, certificates of completion. Don't know how long it'll take the appellate division to go through all that material. But when they do, at the end of the day, at least, if they're affirming Engoron, we're having not just a huge financial penalty against Trump, but a barring of him and his sons from being officers, and a yanking, basically putting into receivership all of these businesses, and essentially something akin to the corporate death penalty for the Trump organization in New York. Those are the stakes here. They are huge for Trump, a man who built his reputation, such as it is, on his real estate empire in New York, and who obviously cares deeply about it. And as soon as this happens, very close on the heels will be the defamation trial with E. Jean Carroll. He's going to lose that one too. And then we go into criminal season, starting either with the Chutkan case or Fulton County. So man, oh man, he is in a minefield like I've never seen, basically. And his strategy is to play it politically. But notice, at least on the New York fraud trial, it doesn't matter if he gets clobbered and it's upheld. And I don't see a big federal issue for the Supreme Court to wade in on there. That's nothing that even if he becomes president, he can reverse. So it's a very, very big difference to him, and a huger one to the country, and maybe the world if he becomes president. But the best case scenario is still a major hurt in many ways, starting with the expected fraud opinion in a month or so. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.